Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack how a seemingly standard diplomatic visit halfway across the world actually carries some massive global implications. At first glance, you might just see two nations separated by thousands of miles with totally different economies. But beneath the headlines, there's a much bigger story, one involving global trade, critical supply chains, and a rapidly shifting balance of power.
So, India's prime minister recently landed in New Zealand, marking a moment that one expert literally called something unusual in the Pacific. Because this wasn't just your standard grip and grin diplomatic photo op. Actually, it was designed to forge a very real partnership aimed directly at addressing maritime security and the growing competition for influence across the Pacific.
Right off the bat, you might be asking yourself, why should Americans care? It's a fair question. Before we just assume this is another routine bilateral meeting between two distant nations, we need to understand how this specific alignment directly impacts the future of global supply chains, international trade, and American strategic interests over the coming decade. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the unusual Pacific visit, move into the economic opportunity, navigate the China factor, look at Indo-Pacific trade, and finally, uncover exactly why America cares. Okay, Section 1, an unusual Pacific visit, going from modest relations to strategic importance. Geographically and economically, these two are literally a study in contrasts. On one hand, you've got India, a booming economic titan with over 1 billion people dominating the Indian Ocean trade routes. And on the other, you have New Zealand, an agile, highly specialized nation anchoring a strategically vital spot in the South Pacific. Historically, they've had friendly but, pretty quiet relations. We're talking limited trade, minimal military cooperation, and exceedingly rare high-level visits. So, why the sudden shift? Well, the catalyst here is pretty clear: a dramatically changing world order and increasingly fragile global supply chains. These two distant democracies have essentially been pushed to rapidly strengthen their ties before regional competition intensifies. Countries everywhere are waking up to the fact that they need reliable, democratic partners rather than relying too heavily on a single economy or a single supply line.
Moving right along to Section 2, the economic opportunity and building reliable supply chains.
It's actually kind of amazing how well these two economies fit together, almost like giant puzzle pieces. India brings an enormous consumer market and a surging IT and tech sector to the table. In return, New Zealand offers world-class agricultural technology, advanced dairy production, and renewable energy expertise, which is exactly what a rapidly expanding India needs to ensure long-term food and energy security outside of traditional hubs. And we're not just talking about trading traditional goods like dairy or machinery here. They're actively engineering the future. We're talking joint ventures in artificial intelligence, climate technology, and even space research. Fueling all of this is a massive human capital exchange. There are currently thousands of Indian students studying in New Zealand, which creates this incredible bedrock for long-term technological innovation. Section 3. Navigating the China factor and the quest for stability. Now, the dynamic here is a fascinating diplomatic tightrope. China remains New Zealand's absolute largest trading partner. It's an essential pillar of Wellington's economy. Meanwhile, India has faced years of really complex border tensions with Beijing. This reality forces both Wellington and New Delhi to carefully weigh their individual strategies and relationships. Now, and this is absolutely crucial to understand, neither country is trying to form some kind of anti-China military alliance. Instead, they're practicing something called strategic resilience. They are intensely focusing on diversifying their dependencies. By prioritizing stronger economic cooperation and regional stability, they're protecting their national interests without directly escalating tensions. They just want to make sure they aren't completely reliant on a single external economy. Which brings us to Section 4, securing Indo-Pacific trade to protect global commerce. Trillions of dollars. That is the staggering scale of international trade, crucial energy supplies, and massive food shipments carried across the oceans connecting Asia and the Pacific every single year. Any disruption in these waters sends immediate shockwaves through the entire global economy. It's that huge. So, to protect these incredibly vital routes without provoking an outright conflict, both nations are really stepping up. India is expanding its naval footprint, while New Zealand is ramping up its regional maritime engagement. Together, they're locking down joint maritime surveillance, essential disaster relief operations, humanitarian missions, and vital cybersecurity collaboration. It is all about making the region profoundly more secure and resilient. Finally, Section 5. Why America should care about this global strategic impact. Look, from Washington's perspective, this partnership is a massive strategic win. First, a stronger India directly anchors stability in the region. Second, when reliable partners like New Zealand and India collaborate, it diversifies global supply chains away from single-point failures. And third, all of this ultimately supports a free, open, and secure Indo-Pacific. There's a quote that really hits the nail on the head here. Every new democratic partnership contributes to a more balanced Indo-Pacific. The United States consistently encourages trusted partners to deepen these exact kinds of ties, because a more balanced Indo-Pacific directly benefits global democratic interests and secures international trade for everyone.
History often moves quietly. This diplomatic visit didn't feature some dramatic military crisis or breaking emergency that dominated the nightly news. But we have to remember that history is shaped by these quiet moments. The relationships, trade agreements, and technological ties being built today are the exact frameworks that will influence global trade, tech, and security for decades to come.
So as the Indo-Pacific rapidly solidifies its role as the world's most important strategic region, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. Given the economic synergies, the maritime security stakes, and the complex diplomatic balancing act we just unpacked, could India actually become America's most critical strategic partner over the next decade? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and keep an eye on how these quiet partnerships continue to reshape our world.